Picture this. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. The sun is shining, the roads are completely dry, and you're fully geared up for the perfect ride. You throw a leg over your motorcycle, turn the key, hit the ignition button, and instead of a roar, your 500-pound machine has just become a very expensive paperweight. You hear it, the dreaded click. Just a weak, sad click. Your battery is completely dead. It's honestly one of the most universal and frustrating pain points for any rider, especially when you know for a fact you just charged that battery a week ago. So you really have to ask yourself, why exactly does your fully charged motorcycle battery keep dying overnight, or after just a few days of sitting in the garage? It's a classic whodunit mystery. According to the sources in today's explainer, unless your battery is just old and worn out, you are more than likely the victim of a silent electrical thief. We're talking about something lurking in your bike's wiring, quietly stealing power in the dark while you sleep. So let's look at the data, track down this thief, and put a stop to it once and for all. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We're going to cover the silent battery thief, setting up your multimeter, testing for parasitic draw, isolating the faulty circuit, lead acid versus lithium, and finally, winter storage and maintenance. All right, kicking things off with part 1, the silent battery thief. Let's get to know our culprit. It turns out, modern motorcycles are basically rolling computers. They've got complex electronics that need a tiny bit of power to remember your settings, keep the dashboard clock ticking, or make sure the security alarm is armed. But when those electronics get a little too greedy, we hit a problem with a highly technical name, parasitic draw. This is defined as the residual rate of electron flow from the battery after the motorcycle's primary ignition circuit is completely switched off and the key is out of your hand. Now, a tiny baseline draw is totally normal for your engine control unit's memory. We call that the quiescent current. But when an accessory stays fully on or a computer module fails to go to sleep, that excessive parasitic draw becomes an absolute crime against your battery's health. What's genuinely fascinating about the data here is just how fast a seemingly tiny leak drains your power pool. Take a look at that 50 milliamp mark at the bottom of the table. A parasitic draw of just 50 milliamps, which is a tiny, tiny fraction of an amp, is considered critical. Why? Well, a standard motorcycle battery might only hold about 10 amp hours of energy. At a continuous 50 milliamp drain, that battery is completely flat in just 1 to 2 days. Anything above 10 milliamps is generally way too high and will leave you totally stranded in about a week. So we've got to find these leaks before they cause permanent damage. Moving right along to section 2, setting up your multimeter. To catch an invisible thief, we need a special kind of magnifying glass. Enter the digital multimeter. But setting this tool up incorrectly is literally the most common mistake people make, and it can actually destroy the meter itself. So before we even touch it, we have to talk about safety. When you're working with your battery, always disconnect the negative terminal, that's the ground cable, first. This is an absolutely crucial safety standard. If you try to loosen the positive terminal first and your metal wrench accidentally bumps against the metal frame of the bike, you've just created a direct, highly dangerous, high-current short circuit. Sparks will fly, fuses will blow, and it's going to be a very bad day. Negative first, always. With that negative cable safely disconnected, let's set up our trap. First up, plug the red cable of your multimeter into the 10 amp socket, not the standard voltage socket. Then set the main dial to DC amp. Next, take your red probe and connect it right to the loose negative cable you just took off the bike. Finally, touch your black probe directly to the negative post on the battery itself. So what are we doing here? We're forcing all of that standby electrical current to flow physically through the meter in a series circuit, and that is exactly how we measure the draw. Let's jump into section 3, testing for parasitic draw. Now we're ready to actually run the test. But hold on, there is a catch. On modern, digitally managed motorcycles, you can't just plug the meter in and instantly read the screen. You actually have to outsmart the vehicle's computers first. The source material highlights a massive pitfall here, known as the trap. When you connect your multimeter in series, you are technically reconnecting power to the bike. This suddenly wakes up all the electronic modules, and they immediately start running their self-checks. If you read the meter right away, it's going to look like you have a massive parasitic draw. You don't. You just woke the bike up. You actually have to wait anywhere from 5 to 45 minutes, depending on the complexity of your specific motorcycle, for those modules to fully power down and enter sleep mode. Only then can you get a true resting reading. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this number, 50 milliamps. Once that sleep cycle has fully finished, look at your multimeter screen. Is it reading 1, 2, maybe 5 milliamps? You're golden. Perfectly fine. But if that reading is hovering at 50 milliamps or higher and it's staying steady, well, you have successfully confirmed the presence of a parasitic thief. You've got a leak. Which brings us to section 4, isolating the faulty circuit. Now that we know the thief is actively in the building, we enter the interrogation phase. We need to narrow down our list of suspects to find the exact source of the leak. And we're going to do this right at the fuse box. With your multimeter still connected in series and displaying that stubbornly high draw, pop open your fuse box. You're going to pull out one fuse at a time. Keep your eyes glued to the multimeter screen. Pull a fuse. If the draw stays high, put it back. Move to the next one. This is a literal process of elimination, just like crossing suspects off a list. When you finally pull the fuse that belongs to the bad circuit, you'll see the reading on your meter drop instantly to near zero. Bam, you just caught the thief. Reinstall that fuse, check your owner's manual to see exactly what that circuit powers, and start your real investigation there. So who are the usual suspects? Usually, the culprit isn't a factory part at all. It's something added later. Aftermarket USB chargers that are wired directly to the battery are overwhelmingly the most common offenders. Let's be honest here. It's almost always that cheap charger you bought for $10 online. Even when absolutely nothing is plugged into them, their internal transformers constantly drain a little bit of power. Aftermarket alarm systems, improperly wired dash cams, or GPS trackers endlessly searching for a dead 3G signal are also massive drains. If it actually is a factory issue, you might be looking at a module failing to sleep or simple damaged wiring that's grounding out against the metal frame. Moving on to section 5, lead acid versus lithium. Let's see how all this builds into the bigger picture. We've talked a lot about the thief, but let's shift gears and look at the victim, your battery. The internal chemistry of your battery heavily dictates how it handles being drained, and understanding this is key to not permanently ruining it. It is incredible to see the sharp divide in battery technology today. Traditional lead-acid batteries are heavy and generally cheaper, but if a parasitic draw empties them out and they sit discharged, they suffer from a process called irreversible sulfation. Basically, the internal lead plates get coated and the battery dies forever. On the flip side, modern lithium iron phosphate batteries are 70% lighter and have incredibly low self-discharge rates. Plus, they have a built-in battery management system, or BMS, that basically acts like a smart circuit breaker, shutting the battery down completely to protect it from deep discharge damage. But listen up, because lithium has a massive Achilles heel that you absolutely must know about, and that is the cold. You should never, under any circumstances, attempt to charge a lithium battery if the ambient temperature is below 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. Doing so can permanently and irreversibly destroy the internal cell chemistry. It's a strict rule, no exceptions. So, if your garage is freezing in the winter, you must bring that lithium battery inside the house before hooking it up to a charger. And finally, Section 6, winter storage and maintenance. Catching parasitic draws is a great skill to have, but properly locking up your garage for the winter is how you prevent battery death in the first place. Think of this as the final piece to the puzzle. Here are your golden rules for winterization. First things first, clean everything and dry those terminals. Second, know your chemistry. Lead-acid batteries want to be stored at 100% full capacity. Lithium batteries, however, actually prefer to be stored at roughly 60 to 80% capacity. Now, the absolute best thing you can do is buy a dedicated smart float charger that perfectly matches your battery type. Think of it as an electrical bodyguard all winter long. It monitors the voltage and applies tiny microcurrents to counteract natural self-discharge without ever overcharging it. If you don't have a smart charger or your garage gets freezing cold, simply disconnect the negative terminal entirely and bring the battery indoors. Physical isolation is a fantastic defense. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this fantastic thought directly from our sources. The battery is your motorcycle's pacemaker. Treat it well, and it will reward you with the strongest heartbeat the moment you turn the key. Taking the time to hunt down those pesky parasitic draws with a multimeter, understanding the very specific needs of your battery's chemistry, and properly maintaining it through the long winter will guarantee your bike is ready to roar the second the sun comes out. But now that you know exactly how to wield a multimeter and what to look for, what invisible thief might be lurking in your garage right now, quietly draining your ride?